The Skokie Alliance for Electoral Reform is a nonpartisan, grassroots ballot initiative committee. We're a group of community members who came together in late 2021 to update Skokie's unfair electoral system so that we Skokie voters can have choices on the ballot when electing our village board. That's the mayor, clerk, and trustees. Our all-volunteer group created 3 referendums for nonpartisan elections, staggered terms, and hybrid representation, and we gathered about 4,000 signatures from Skokie voters per referendum petition to get all 3 binding referendums on the November 8th ballot. So we Skokie voters now get to vote on how we want to elect our village board. So what is the problem with Skokie's current electoral system? This graph shows information about municipal board elections on the North Shore. As you can see, Skokie has the worst candidate turnout on the North Shore. That's the average number of candidates running for each position. We average only 1.1 candidate per seat on our village board. Since it's rare to have any choices on our ballot, the outcome of the election is usually already determined before we even get to vote. And so it's no surprise that our average voter turnout is abysmally low at only 9%. But why do Skokie voters so rarely have any choices on our ballot? Our electoral system is unique. It's the only one that we can find in all of Illinois that combines 3 features: partisan elections, not staggered terms, and all at-large representation. Each one of these features gives some advantage to the party in power. All 3 of them combined make the system so skewed to advantage a single party that it makes it almost impossible for a challenger to win. And so over the years, most folks have decided it's not worth running, and we get that average 1.1 candidate per seat. When we voters aren't actually the ones choosing our elected officials, then our board members aren't accountable to the voters. Rather, they're accountable to the party leaders who choose to slate them or not in the next election. And with Skokie's current system, a single party took every single seat on our board for 56 years. When 91% of the registered voters aren't voting, and one party takes every seat for over half a century, that's not a functioning democracy. Again, we're a nonpartisan group because we know the problem is not any given party. The problem is our unfair electoral system that discourages competition and gravitates toward single-party rule. So we are proposing updating our electoral system to have nonpartisan elections, staggered terms, and hybrid representation to get rid of that systemic advantage, level the playing field, and make it more fair for everyone to run so we voters can get some choices and be the ones deciding who represents us. Now let's talk about the specifics of the referendums. You'll see these 3 referendums all the way at the bottom of your ballot. Here's the language you'll see on your ballot for the first referendum for nonpartisan elections. Shall candidates for mayor, clerk, and village trustee of the Village of Skokie be elected at nonpartisan primary and general elections? What does that mean exactly? This was our 2021 ballot for the village board. You'll notice on the right where we're asked to vote for 6 trustees. The top 6 names all come from the Skokie Caucus Party. Then there's 1 lone independent way down in 7th position. That's because our current partisan system gives the established party an earlier filing period, so their names are always at the top of the ballot. Statistically, the higher a candidate is on the ballot, the better their chance of winning the election. With nonpartisan elections, we would get rid of that advantage for the established party, and all candidates would have the same filing period and the same shot at top billing on the ballot. Nonpartisan elections would also remove uninformative local party labels that tell us voters nothing about a candidate's positions. That would oblige candidates to tell us voters what they stand for and campaign on their merits and positions, not just as part of a party slate, so we can actually know who we're voting for. And you'll see on this graph that Wilmette and Evanston have the best voter turnout. Those 2 suburbs are the only ones on this graph that have nonpartisan elections. When candidates have to campaign on their merits and positions and not just on a party slate, it engages voters more in the process. Now here we have the second referendum for staggered terms. Shall the Village of Skokie adopt a system of staggered 4-year terms and biennial elections for village trustees? With staggered terms, we'd still have 4-year terms. We'd just elect half our board at a time every 2 years instead of all of them at once every 4 years. That's how all the other boards in Skokie are already elected: the library board, the park district board, and the school boards. They already stagger their elections and have the schedule you see on the right. So this wouldn't mean any more elections or any more cost for taxpayers, because we'd just be adding a few races to elections that are already happening. By the way, all those other boards in Skokie also have nonpartisan elections. So with these first 2 referendums, nonpartisan elections and staggered terms, We're simply bringing the village board into alignment with all the other boards in Skokie to be nonpartisan and staggered. Staggered terms make sense for good government. We'd never end up replacing our whole board all at once, so we can balance innovation with stability. Candidates would have more opportunities to run for office, so we can invite new voices, and voters would have more frequent opportunities to give feedback to the board about the direction they're taking. We'd also only have to vote for half the board at a time, so no one would have to run from, say, 12th position on the ballot. And here is the language of our third referendum for hybrid representation. Shall the Village of Skokie adopt a system of hybrid elections for village trustees in which 2 of 6 village trustees are elected at large and 4 of 6 village trustees are elected from districts? Let's talk more about what that means exactly. Currently, we elect all our trustees at large from the whole of Skokie. That might make sense for a very small place, but Skokie is now a large municipality of about 68,000 people. It takes very deep financial pockets or serious political connections to campaign effectively to that many people. It's financially prohibitive for a lot of people who would be good candidates but just can't afford it. And so if we move to a system where we elect 4 district trustees and 2 at-large trustees, then a candidate who chooses to run for a district position only has to campaign to a district of 17,000 people, not 68,000. It also means that when you have an issue in your neighborhood, you'd have a devoted trustee who's there to hear your concern and be responsible for it. This hybrid system would ensure that you'd have an advocate for your neighborhood on the board. This map shows the home addresses of our trustees over the last 20 years. You can see overrepresentation in the northeast quadrant and serious underrepresentation in the rest of Skokie. In fact, on this map of where the current trustees live, you can see that we have 0 trustees from the northwest and 0 trustees from the southeast, and the vast majority are in the northeast. So when a major zoning decision or something comes before the board, you don't know if anyone on the board has a real understanding of and care for your community's needs. A hybrid system makes sure there's at least one voice on that board who comes from your area of Skokie, and there's someone devoted to your needs. To be clear, we're not proposing a ward system, but rather a hybrid system that will ensure local representation while still promoting village-wide cooperation. So we encourage you to vote yes on these 3 referendums for nonpartisan elections, staggered terms, and hybrid representation. We can create a fair system that, as the president of the National Civic League has said, would put us at the forefront of good governance. We would not be stuck with this outdated system unlike any other in Illinois. Instead, we would be at the forefront, being the leader that Skokie should be. These 3 referendums have been endorsed by a long list of impressive organizations and individuals, more than we can fit on these slides, so you can go to our website and see a lot more. A few endorsers include the local chapters of the League of Women Voters and the National Organization for Women, the statewide Independent Voters of Illinois Independent Precinct Organization, elected officials including former Governor Quinn and State Representative Denise Wang Stoneback, and the leaders of a lot of faith and community organizations who understand that these reforms are the path to revitalizing our democracy and making every vote matter.